Yo, what's up, Adam?
You know, when we record a string of these things, you get a carbo load.
Yeah, you're eating my trail mix again, buddy.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm Adam Maness,
And I'm Peter Martin.
and you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
Brought to you by Open Studio. Man, I feel so much better. Thank you for sharing that trail mix with me.
No problem, man. It's a little snacks
It
with a Z.
trends sweet, that trail
It
mix.
does trend sweet, but that's not the sweet. That one does not have actual Milky Way bars in it. As some of them, I like the ones with like Reese's Pieces. They're like almonds, chocolates,
Yeah.
and more chocolates. You know?
It's really like the most calories you can get for the weight if you are a professional hiker.
That's right.
However,
it's
I sit at a piano all day.
that's right.
So
It's all good. It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today? Today we are talking about help.
Help!
I need somebody.
My practice routine isn't working.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this is going to be a little bit of a self-help, maybe a bit of a motivational episode of the You'll Hear It podcast.
You can do it.
You can do it, yeah.
Yeah. You are somebody.
If your practice routine is stalling out,
Yep.
what are some techniques, what are some tips we can give to maybe help get you back on track?
Yep.
Has this ever happened to you? I'm sure it does.
Yes, it has. In fact, I was just going to say, I think that this cry for help has happened to every jazz player.
Yeah,
at some point.
frequently,
Every
probably.
musician.
I mean-
yeah, and certainly the frequency can be there. And so I think that's maybe the first thing when you feel like that. Like, what I'm thinking about with this is, maybe you put in a new routine, or you've got a routine going and it's working, and then all of a sudden it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it just doesn't work from when you start. Either one can happen. And what that is I think the practice routine, and that's why I'll just say, like, a practice routine has to be fluid.
Yep.
Like, it's certainly, maybe you get lucky and you have a certain routine and that works for 6 months, exactly like it is. That would be a long time.
That would be a long time.
But even like how you evaluate and monitor its, effectiveness, that has to be fluid, and you have to be very attentive to that so that you can make. I don't think it's a matter of like totally redoing things if you're paying attention. It's like readjusting, having different things that you can pull in and out is the key, because you never want to get to that help. My whole routine isn't working. Maybe it's like help, I'm missing out on this or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are times when you just have to kind of do a wholesale. Let's redo it. Let's break everything down. Let's whiteboard up a whole new thing.
Absolutely. We get asked a lot about, like, how do I know when to move on, or how do I know if I've learned it right, or and this kind of falls to me in the same category as this help my practice routine isn't working. Because the answer is, and you had mentioned, you kind of like, you listen to your body, like, have you ever, and I'm sure you haven't, but have you ever like gotten a little, maybe you're out on the road, you're eating a little too much, like, decadent food, you're maybe having one,
You sure
two.
have it. It's literally my daily routine on the road.
You have one too many cocktails at night,
Right.
and then eventually, if you keep that up for like, 10, 14, 35 nights in a
Years.
row.
Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, your body starts giving you
Right.
signs, and
Not
you
if
have to
you're
pay
22,
attention. Not if you're 22.
But if you're 42, yes.
But your body will start kind of giving you clues that, like, yo, I can't do this.
Right.
This
right.
is not me
I'm still
anymore.
alive,
Yeah.
but
And so that idea of paying attention
yes.
to your body in that regard. But I think on the practice routine is paying attention to your mind, paying attention to your creative mind,
Yep.
also to your body. Your body can definitely go through stress
Yep.
if you're doing the same thing repetitively.
Yep.
But really, if you feel like you are not absorbing things, if you're not connecting to the things you're practicing,
Yep.
to me, that's the first red flag of like, all right, it's time to switch something up.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Well, this is great, because I just realized from what you said, the answer to this number one can be listen.
That's right.
Which we always love to do that.
Listen, yeah.
Which it is.
We haven't
Like,
done a
listen
number
to-
one listen in
We
quite a
haven't,
while, actually.
Right.
But yeah.
So, like, listen to your body, listen to your mind, listen to what sounds are coming out of your instrument
Yeah.
as you practice. But I think, like, if you're to that point of help, my practice routine isn't working, and you've kind of checked to make sure, wait, are you sure it's not working? Because we got to remember, too, that having an effective practice routine does not mean that every day you're going to get better.
Right.
Or at least that you're going to feel like you're getting better. I think every day you should feel like you're making progress, but there's an inevitable, hill, what do they call it? Valleys and hills.
Peaks and valleys.
Peaks
yeah.
and valleys,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
two, And so sometimes, as you get more attuned to what your development is and how you respond to things, and it's basically as you get older.
Yeah.
Like you get a better assessment of that, because sometimes when you're younger, you can actually be making progress and not realize that you are, because you don't have the patience yet.
That's right.
So we want to first make sure that the help is a real help, because to me, there's always some level of like progress, even if it's kind of a maintenance or reviewing kind of stage. That's still progress in some ways. But if you evaluate it in terms of, can I do something that I couldn't have done at the beginning of the day? Maybe not. Doesn't mean it's an ineffective practice day or practice routine.
Yeah.
But you want to be checking. Now, as weeks go by, you should be making progress in specific areas. But most of these areas, especially as you get better, the gradient gets very small.
That's right.
So you have to have that patience to kind of push through that and not get that feedback from yourself.
But if you are working on something specific, or you have a practice routine you've been working, and maybe you've tried switching it up, there are some things you might consider trying
Yep.
to see if it can be more effective. And hey, listen, we're always trying to optimize everything we're doing with
Right.
any of this stuff. So,
Right.
And the first is I think is a little bit of reflection, right? To maybe like make an account of, am I actually not making progress? Because like you said, you might be, and you just don't
Right.
see it,
Right.
So maybe like do a little bit of a numbers crunch on, can I do this? Can I do this in this
Yep.
key? Can I do this at this tempo? And if you can do that again better in a few weeks, then your routine is working.
Right,
You
right.
know?
Yeah, it might not be able to be measured on a daily or certainly hourly basis.
Yeah.
And with our, current society, it's like everything has to happen right away. And this music hasn't really changed. Like how we access it makes it feel like it's changed, and like what it takes to play it because of the technology that's available, what we can hear, the knowledge and information we can get from all around the world immediately. It's like, wow, everything can be sped up. But the reality of it is the whole 10,000 hours thing, which, I don't necessarily believe in totally, but the concept that it takes a lot of hard work and experience and grit to get through that, and that process is actually what builds you into a interesting and potentially great improviser.
That's right.
There's not really a shortcut for that. So
No.
the better. Now, having said that, if you're like, help, my practice routine isn't working, if you're using as kind of your metrics that I want to become a great player, I am patient, and you're measuring it by those things, then that's fine. Make the adjustments to make sure that's happening. But remember that process and that grit and that ear training
Yep.
and all these things that you acquire in the process, that's where it's at. That's where the magic's at. And so it's not going to be like, man, I did all the things that you said to do, and I still can't play fast. It's like, okay, no, these elements that we recommend have to be put together. They have to be practiced thoughtfully, and then they have to be repeated and practiced a ton of times. There's
That's
just
right.
no way around
years
that.
and years. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no getting around that. So
Yeah.
if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not making progress and it's frustrating you, I would say then a couple of things is really try to switch it up. Like really, like I've been working on technique for the past month or so. I've been really like going at scales and arpeggios and different ways to do it pretty hard. And I hit a wall. And
Yep.
as I've done dozens, if not scores of times in my career here. And so like this week, I'm just like, you know what? I'm doing all transcribing this week, all ear
Nice.
training. I'm just bringing my headphones with me wherever I go. I'm getting this solo. I'm getting this orchestration that I want to learn.
That's smart.
You know
That's
what I mean?
smart.
And then I'll come back to the technique stuff in a couple weeks. It'll be fresh.
It's so smart.
You
And
know?
so, like, you kind of had then what you're. I didn't realize that recently a help, my practice routine isn't working moment.
I just
In a
was
way.
feeling like I wasn't as, for me, when I pay attention to my sort of flow with this,
Yeah.
if I'm not able to concentrate, if I'm not excited about what I'm practicing, if I'm not
Yeah.
like coming out with good feelings and good ideas, it might be time for me to it might be just getting stale, and then I'll see diminished returns because I'm not focused as
Right.
I should be. So
I love practicing the diminished returns, man.
the diminished returns are
Oh,
very
and the
useful
augmented
scale.
returns are even better.
But you know what I'm saying, where it's like switching it up can sometimes
Yeah.
really kick
I think
you
that's really
into-
smart. I think once you get to a high level like you're at, you can, I would say for a beginner or even intermediate, you have to be a little bit careful because there's still important elements that you're just kind of have to do to work through and that you can't totally let go of. But once you've got all the essential stuff, I mean, not to say that, you're not trying to still work on things and
Yeah.
progress, but you can afford to kind of not abandon technique, but like put that to the side. And I think that's a smart way to, because you're going to be so much more effective, efficient, and happier in your practice when you're doing something that you feeling good about. And that's that adjustment. Help, my routine, change up the routine.
Totally.
Change up the routine. And there's enough things we need to work on, and you have the advantage. I mean, yeah, ideally we're working on every element of music, the 5 elements or whatever. We've identified exactly 20% each day, but that's not the way our minds. I mean, there might be one day out of the month when your mind works like that.
Yeah, and
but
that's
the other days it's not working like that.
I think that's a great routine. The 5, the 5 that are that's great for like an intermediate player.
Right.
I think to hit those
Right.
things because you can progress on all of them
And you
fairly
need to. I
quickly.
mean, like
and
you kind of
to.
need to, like to get those elements better to fit in the pieces. But once
Yeah.
you have them, it's more like refinement. I think this kind of really focused practice, and that's also why. And I think that we've stayed pretty true to this. We're much more regimented at the beginner level, and then still some at the intermediate level. And look, there's certainly big gray areas as far as when you're moving in and out of these, and less so with the advanced in terms of what we preach about a practice routine.
Yeah.
And we're a lot more about the get into the flow state when you're at the
Yeah.
advanced level, because we've seen individually and we've seen in others like rapid progress when you're doing that. And that's what an effective practice routine is about.
Yeah, you get to a point where you can be regimented in the session,
Yeah.
and then your kind of day to day can
Yeah.
be where you're feeling it a little more the more advanced you get. But what's funny too about this is I'm day 1 into this ear training week that I'm going to do, and I was transcribing the solo, and I already unlocked a technique thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I'm going to take with me in a couple weeks when I go back to it. That I was
Yep.
like, oh, that's that sound that
And you can make a note of it. And then,
Totally.
yeah.
You know.
Well, and I think too that what you're going to see is, and I've definitely experienced this, and I'll forget and then remember the next time it happens, is if you do an intensive, technique thing, ear training, vocabulary, whatever it is, you're concentrating, then you're like almost burnt out on it or about to be. And that's another key is like, you start to learn before you get to that help, like right before, because it's coming,
Yep. Yep.
and then you can make that adjustment. That's that kind of mature practicing. But your gains will continue technically because now you got time for it to marinate, like when you're sleeping. And, it's like you're thinking about things and you're like, oh, I got to write that down. But there's certain things you think about. I don't know, for me, I'm just like, I don't even have to write it down. Like that's so smart or not smart, but like someone will say something or I'll read something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not even going to write that. I'm like, I know even with all the other crap, that'll come back.
Yep.
And so I think like certain things, especially practicing technique or whatever, or it's like, you go to the gym and work out and then you look at your muscles, you're like, ugh, they're not really any bigger. But you wake up the next morning, you're like, bow.
Totally, yeah,
That's
yeah.
after that steroids, yeah, too, though. No, but I mean, as you're sleeping, you're growing. You're
It's
growing, and it's happening. And then as you're doing your ear training, the technique stuff is starting to have its chance to manifest itself in actual music now. So those gains continue. You never stop and just evaluate yourself there, and it's a static thing. We're always moving forward.
Yeah, and I think another kind of cure for burnout, and this is one you have to be careful with, but that's to take some time off. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're really feeling like you're not able to make any progress, you're beating your head against the wall, getting
Right.
very frustrated, step away from the instrument for a while.
Yeah.
A couple days, even a week if you have to. Like,
Yep.
you don't want to get in the habit of not being connected to your instrument, I think. But,
Right. I mean, I remember when I first started taking some time off from the instrument when I was really got into playing and I was a kid. The only time would be when we take like a road trip or something with my family. And even then I was so obsessed with it. Like we would stop and I'd go to like some church and practice or play or whatever. But like I remember for like a couple days being away from the piano or a week and then coming back and I was like kind of like, wow. But I had this, the instrument felt different, like in such a unique way than when you're hitting it every day.
It's true.
It's like you really, I mean, that's an example of your mind's kind of taking over some other elements, things that you're working on continue. You don't lose, I mean, you lose a little bit of, agility maybe, but I mean, definitely more at the beginner level. That's why it's always like do a little bit each day. But what you gain in terms of insight and perspective and freshness coming to the instrument is great.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, this is great, man.
Yeah.
Help! I like the title.
Did we save them?
I don't think so, but hopefully we gave you some fresh ideas.
Hopefully we threw you a little musical life raft.
That's right. Ways to switch it up and maybe break through that wall if
That's
you're
right.
If you're trying to get.
Now,
through.
we haven't talked about something in a few days.
What
And
was that?
Officially, we're not big on the ratings and reviews anymore.
We're not.
No, we heard it from up top at Open Studio. Stop with all the yearning for the adulation.
Wait. Aren't you up top at Open
Well,
Studio?
no, apparently not. I thought I was because I would have kept doing it. But as it turns out, we do care. We care deeply. Not about us. It's not about us. It's about our lovely listeners.
All right.
But we get a little international love, which is always fun because we see the stats. We know folks are out there, but for some reason, I mean, USA is our highest listenership, but we have a lot. We're in like a bunch of other countries, 40-something countries, I believe, right?
Yeah, we're in more than that.
Oh, we're more than that.
Yeah.
Podcast?
Yeah, we're in like 50 something. 60?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yo, we go worldwide. What?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, boss.
But
Jorgensen.
Jorgensen, give me those numbers. But so we got a little love from the UK.
That's awesome.
This was a review on iTunes, and the title is plus another 7 stars from the UK. Love listening to this on my commute to work in the morning, and then an emoji of what do you call that?
Okay sound?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
A-OK.
A-OK. Used cars.
By Villa Barani from UK of Great Britain
That's
and
great.
Northern Ireland. Yeah. So that was cool. That was kind of our last one. 5 stars,
Thank
but
you.
7 stars in the title. We love that.
Thank
That
you very much.
Makes us feel even more important. Than
We do ask, if we're going to talk ratings and reviews, we do ask for at least 7 stars. Now, this is impossible, as we all know.
Well, and you say it's impossible, yet I keep seeing it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Well,
leave it in the subject, the title of the review, and the review itself. We've had as many as 10.5. We've had infinite once, but that's just that's
so you're saying leave 7,
childish.
but I don't think you should be so dictatorial. I think that
we ask
we
politely.
ask.
Politely.
No, but that's if they like it. If they don't like it, do 6. That's fine. No problem. We can take constructive criticism. Not a problem.
6 stars.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So we had one more a couple days before. I love the name of this person. It's from Doo Stick, from, of course,
that
the
one too,
USA. Yeah, Doo Stick.
Doo-doo stick.
I'm thinking like the Dookie Stick. I'm hoping, right?
Yeah.
Fun and informative, 5 stars. I really like. Come on, 5 stars? Really? Okay, it's all good. I really like this podcast. It's a great way to learn new ways of approaching jazz performance and discover new to me music. And it helps make my commute to work pleasurable. Hey, everyone's commuting out here. I like that.
That's what I'm saying, man.
We commute. You
We
listen to podcasts when you commute?
Sometimes I listen to this podcast.
You know
when I
what?
commute.
I'm ashamed to say I do too.
I just want to check the quality more than
I
anything.
like to be I'm kind of entertained by it. I'm not gonna lie.
But my commute is my number one podcast absorption time.
Right.
For, I like a lot of like comedy podcasts, murder mystery podcasts, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Man, you're classy.
Well,
Class it up, man. That's right. Hashtag classy. Well,
hashtag you'll hear it.